We were generating, I mean, look, we were generating leads so cheap. He was spending $150 a month in ad spend. How many new business owners I've coached through that specific concept? Like, you don't, it's not, the dollar is just one form of currency. Underlying, like, the undertones of this space where you become an authority or become an influencer is like, you got to have millions in the bank. If you can't, if you're not flying in your G ride.
Right, you beautiful motherfuckers. World's best dad. As you can see, I got a hat. It wouldn't be true if they didn't get me a hat, even though they probably sell these in the millions. We have an awesome guest today. Charles Sears is here. Charles and I go back quite a few years. He just wrote a book, which is what we're going to be talking about today, called The Trust Bridge. And I think it is a very, very cool philosophy about the whole process of selling and actually gasp helping people, not just like, like twist their arms. Like, I think a lot of the stuff that's taught out there in the world is what I call like WWF wrestling, where you're trying to wrestle the credit card out of someone's hand, pin them to the ground, fucking rip it out, and use your psychological techniques. And I've done that kind of stuff. And if you have a conscience, it probably makes it hard to feel good about it. But Charles is going to talk about doing this in a way where you're just actually helping people and like actually contributing in their world, and doing it in a way where it feels good and you're actually being helpful to their marketplace. And for all those reasons, I thought it would be awesome to have him on. So first, brother, thank you for coming on and doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Hell yeah. So let's talk about the philosophy of the trust bridge. We were kind of talking a little bit off air, but our folks missed a little bit of gold. I had to cut you off and say, let's record this. But you had mentioned something that I call sitting on the same table side of the table as the prospect, where a lot of times people look at a sales conversation or the sales process in general, which includes all your lead generation, all of that, as if a prospect is sitting across from you as a being to be conquered. And you mentioned, like, you got to actually live in the world with these people. You got to actually help them. And it's more about like what I would describe as you come around to the other side of the table, and it's like, tell me what you see from here and where you're trying to go. So I wonder if you could share just a little bit about the deeper idea, the why, and the kind of the overarching idea that you want to share.
Yeah, man, absolutely. This comes from a place of really truly understanding and believing in community. We wake up every day, and we're all born and taught different philosophies about life. Like, they may not be called philosophies. Our parents may not tell us like this is how you're going to view the world, right? We might call it point of view or perspective, but very rarely are we given the opportunity to look at this idea that we have to live in community with other people. And oftentimes, that means a lot of different things, but it means sometimes trading with them and exchanging, and sometimes that can get a little blurry, right? That can get a little blurry. Like you said, when I first started in sales, I had this idea in my head that salespeople are these like icky, sticky people that are just trying to,
Used car sales.
their
That's what
target's your
everybody
wallet.
pictures, right? Like the huckster who's gonna just say and do anything in order to get you to give them.
Right. Yeah. We've all seen them in the movies, the snake oil salesman or the used car salesman. And I think, what I've come to over time is that, those guys do come and go, but they fade off into the darkness. And the people that stick around are the ones who truly grasp what it means to be in the marketplace, to be in community with other people, and to truly serve. The first time I'd heard this term, it was called servant leadership, right? And now what I'm out preaching is servant salesmanship. It's like you said, it's this idea of coming from a place of empathy and trying to, rather than looking at my product, what I need to sell, what I need to accomplish, I look at the perspective of the other person. I come around alongside them and I say, okay, like, how's your day going? Right? How are you doing? What problem are you trying to solve today? whether it's in the moment or in a grander scheme. And in that, by by shifting perspective, I can gain a little bit of empathy for that person and say, okay, like if I was trying to solve that problem, how would I want to be approached? I know I'd want someone to help me, right? Because that's the reason we all live in community in the first place, is that we can't do everything we want to do alone and on our own.
Nor would we want
So,
to.
right, even if we want to. So it's a shift in perspective. It's okay, rather than my product, like I'll shift my product or service if it helps you solve the problem that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, can I just
And what
add
I've
right
done is
here that a lot of times
what.
people think a sales conversation is to discuss your product or your service, and it's actually what you described, which is like, to me, question number one is like, what are you trying to build? Like, what are you trying to like do in your life, in your business, blah blah blah, like how does this fit in? And it's actually more about them and what they're trying to do, and it doesn't really matter what your product does, because it's different things to different people every single time. And so no matter how, even if you've sold it 100 times, on time 101, you still have to go back to the basics of who are you and what are you trying to do, right? Like, and not like, let me tell you about my thing. My thing is the greatest motherfucking thing on the face of the earth, even though my thing is,
Oh man.
buy my shit.
Right, yeah, buy my stuff. Yeah, I've had so many conversations. I definitely don't have the years of experience under my belt. You've come from a long line of marketing, and you've been a great mentor and coach to me in the agency space. So I appreciate that. Definitely adopted a lot of your philosophies. But I have been fortunate enough to do some marketing for a lot of businesses, like well over 100 local businesses in different parts of the world. And I've come across conversations where that's exactly the mindset is, I'm the best pest control company in Bakersfield. Well, I know I've never, so I tell people now, I say I've never heard anyone advertise themselves as the second best.
Yeah, we're middle of the pack.
Yeah, we're just your
We're as
average
mediocre as
everyday.
it comes. Call us.
Call us first, right? Yeah. And so, right, so it's almost comical when you focus on yourself, uh because then people stop listening, right? So the idea of the trust bridge is that instead of that mindset, let's shift it away from us and towards the person on the other side of the table and say, okay, you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. You don't trust me. You don't have a reason to trust me. And so my first goal is to show you, one, I want you to know who I am. And I want I eventually want to build trust. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is through building a relationship. And the easiest way to like frame it, is the saying, you can never make old friends, right? You can't make new old friends, right? Whatever relationship starts today is new, and you have to build that over time. And I think it adds this time element to it, and that's the idea of the bridge, is that it doesn't just happen in one instance. It happens in a sequence of events that happen over a period of time, and you can't get away from that. You could be the best at anything in the world, and if you only had one experience with someone, it still doesn't build the amount of trust, because there are so many factors. Are you dependable? Are you reliable? Do you have integrity? Do you show up?
Yeah,
how
and I
well
would
can you
even
solve
add,
my problem?
especially in our space, like, are you still going to be doing this in 3 months? Because I've seen, as we kind of were talking off air, like people who were crypto experts, NFT experts, now they were TikTok experts, now they're AI experts. So like, if you only talk to me once today and you're a TikTok expert, I may not trust you to still be a TikTok expert 3 months from now, right? And so like,
Right.
how serious I'm going to take you as a business owner to potentially hire you is a lot lower if you're always doing something different, right? Like you said, it's a real relationship. Real relationships have multiple touch points.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want to say, like, one of the courses I bought uh, early on in my career, it took the guy 18 months of advertising to me, to get me to, and a sales interaction, a couple sales interactions to get to the point where I was like, okay, yeah, I'll spend $5,000. Right,
Yeah.
I'll take that risk. So that's the idea. The trust bridge philosophy is building basically planks, right? So we call them trust points. Is you need to hit multiple trust points, and I make the analogy. It's like, it's not touch points, right? It's not like, hey man, just following up, hey, just checking in.
Yeah.
It's like, those things are fine. There are lots of sales coaches out there that say, oh, don't do that. Like, I've closed plenty of deals just following up. But if I want to be strategic on the front end, then how can I provide value to this person without having to, with like, let's say, like, less intention, right? We want more intention. We want to build trust and authority through like a strategic plan. And I'm going to do that through offering, you see, we talked about the lead magnet a little bit, right? It's like, the first time I heard the term lead magnet, I didn't know what it meant. I understood, like, oh, it's supposed to get you leads, but no one really talks about why it's supposed to get you leads and why people come to you and take that product in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's because it's strategically crafted and placed to help solve a problem, and then that creates a new problem, right? So you can kind of front end, back end it. I actually learned some of that from another kind of guru in the space, Alan Sultanic. But yeah, so that's the idea of the trust bridge, is that we're gonna, on the front end, before I ever talk to you, before you ever even know my name, I'm going to consider who you are, right? And I'm going to look at the problems that you have, at least in the abstract, and I'm going to plan for those, and I'm going to map out a sequence of steps that essentially become the roadmap for how we're going to build our relationship up until you buy. And we're going to do that with as much intention and empathy as we can. So that's kind of like the system that we put together. But the underlying philosophy is caring about other people and the plight of humanity.
Yeah.
I say the plight of humanity is that humanity doesn't,
or at the very least, the plight of the potential clients you're trying to work with, right? Like, you may not care about every human being everywhere, but you should certainly care about the ones you intend to do business with, or potentially, it's something too, Charles, like, just to kind of build on what you said. I had a chat with some of our mastermind folks the other day about buying cycles. And it's the idea that a lot of times people think like high ticket sales are simpler than they actually are, where you mentioned, like, you follow that guy for 18 months before you actually pulled the trigger. And that's actually a very normal experience. Like, a lot of, sometimes it might take you 18 minutes, but it's very often like there's a process you go through over time, and you listen to them and you absorb them before you actually pull the trigger and become, a customer, client, whatever, and however far you decide to take that journey. And the example I gave is the ultimate high ticket sale is real estate. It's like, for most people, it's the biggest purchase they'll ever make. And so what happens is, most real estate agents, because they don't understand that it's a relationship and there's a buying cycle, when they advertise, they're basically like, hire me to sell your house, and that's it. And then people say, okay, I'm interested in talking to you. And they get, from some of the people who manage agents that I talk to, you can get like 300 of those leads a week off of Facebook, and they struggle to close even one or two of those, even though they just had 300 leads. And the biggest reason is because the average time it takes somebody to buy a house, from like the time they actually like consider it to actually pull the trigger, is 6 months. And so that means, like, they may like start looking like, I wonder how much my house is worth right now. The market's changed, and they may start like Googling that. And then they might say, like, where would we move to? And they might start researching neighborhoods, and then they might drive by a few of them and check them out. And then they may like, hey, let's there's an open house on that one, let's actually go check it out. And they may like, hey, let's go see a mortgage broker and see how, like, what kind of rates we can get. And this process happens over months and months and months, average for the typical person, before they actually close that. And if you're a real estate agent and you're not focused on building trust, and so your goal is just run a Facebook ad and try and get 300 people, then you end up with 300 people and you're lucky to close one of them, and you all of a sudden you just created 300 conversations worth of work. Where if you realize, like, my job is to actually contribute value so that the time they're actually ready to pull the trigger, I'm the only logical choice. What happens is you begin nurturing those relationships over 6 months. And I always kind of compare it to like a garden where, you plant seeds in the ground and you water them, but I have no idea whether this seed's going to water in a day, a month, a year. It depends on the plant. Like you mentioned, you're an 18-month
Sure.
plant, and some of them happen in a day, right? Like you may post a Facebook ad and
Sure.
somebody says, yeah, I was just looking for an agent. But more than likely, you would be better served by contributing value. And like, if you're a real estate agent, I'm not, obviously, but I could think of like a dozen
Sure.
ways to do that. How much is my home worth? What does the process look like? What are some
Mm.
cool up and coming areas? What are some things you should watch out for? How to find a good deal,
Mm.
things you should watch out for in a listing agent, what the process looks like after you list it. Here's how we advertise your home. Here's how we get buyers in. Here's what you'll need to do. Here's the things you need. Like, just staying in front of people by contributing value. What happens is, as they kind of flower in that 6-month journey, you'd be the only choice. And what happens is, because most people don't look at this as a value creation thing, they're looking at how can I get, not how can I build trust, so that
Give.
like this
Right.
sales process is almost unnecessary. Because of that, they're asking questions like, what do we need to say in our ad to get a bazillion fucking leads that we can follow up? And what happens is they make it exceptionally hard. And the crazy thing is, as you mentioned, the minute you say, well, how do we actually help these people to get what they want? Then like your
Right.
lead generation process and your lead nurturing process becomes 1,000 times fucking easier and significantly more
Right.
effective, because it's the whole thing is a giving process. You're contributing value at every step of the way, and it's not just like, hey, just following up from Frankie's Real Estate, see if you want to sell your house today. Not today. Okay, well, I'm
Right.
going to
Yeah.
harass you again
Yeah.
tomorrow. And instead say, hey, a lot of folks have questions about how much their house is worth, so we wrote a little 8-page book that walks you through how to look up your home values and see what it's worth. That way you can see,
Nice.
like, does it even make sense to sell your home right now where the market's at? This is what are comparables. This is how we look them up. This is how you can get,
Right.
like, more or less within $10,000-$15,000 what your home is worth. And I'd love to send you a free copy right now. And if you're interested in hiring us, obviously there'll be some details in there, but either way, you'll get some value from this guide. Right? Like, it's a totally different process
Right.
when you're actually intending to build trust. And I see this all the time. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about follow-up, because people are not thinking about like using follow-up as a way to add value and contribute to the relationship. They're always looking for,
Right.
like, what's the perfect magic set of words? And it's like, it's way easier just to say, like, I made something for you at this stage you're at that may be useful to
Sure.
you. Love to just give it to you and help you figure out whatever you need to figure out. It's a way easier follow-up to do that than to go, well, so do you want to buy my shit? Did you read my proposal? Are you ready to give me money? And I see a lot of people struggle
Right.
with this. And the minute you mention, as you do, where you're contributing value and intentionally creating a relationship and intentionally putting something into that, because relationships don't happen without you putting something into them. Like, it's not a one-way thing. Then what happens
Yeah.
is, like, the whole thing just like gets easier. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. And because I get so many questions about, like, what's the magic script? And the moment you think about, like, how can I actually help this person to get what they want, and do that in a strategic way where it gives them more of a chance to do business with me, the
Right.
more you're like actually contributing to them. Like, follow-up's easy once you start asking those kind of questions.
Yeah, man. I think, so you nailed it with the question. It's like one of the most valuable things I've learned in the last, few years is that questions are more valuable than answers.
Yeah.
If you know what to ask and what to consider when you're approaching a problem, you come out, that becomes the system through which you can always solve that problem. And so by asking, like, how can I actually help these people? It's like, that's the right question versus how can I get them to pay me?
Yeah.
It's like, if I reframe that a little bit and back to what we're actually all doing here. And I think it's that loss of meaning that we've had, as these, I live in a town of it's like 750,000 people. So you could imagine that, like, a town of like 50 people maybe they understand the value of community a little bit more than someone who's in a town of 700.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to see the same people if you screw them over, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, it doesn't have the same impact. So yeah, I mean, in the follow-up, it's like you should plan for the follow-up. Like the follow-up is the relationship. And the real estate agent thing is perfect because I've dealt with that. We have a guy here, he's a fellow military veteran, and he's like, hey, you can help us through this angle. And I told him in the beginning, I said, look, it's a great angle, and that's a great, there's a lot of veterans in town that you can help. But, you're kind of coming off a little gimmicky, even though you're a veteran. It's like you're just targeting them, but you're not actually like looking to help them. It's just, I'm going to give you this carrot, right? And after, yeah, we were generating, I mean, look, we were generating leads so cheap. He was spending $150 a month in ad spend, and we were generating him like 20 leads a month or something like that. And for an agent like who is specifically targeting veterans with this specific package, it was like, these are great. But like you said, the sales cycle's 6 months long. So rather than looking at it like, man, I can come in, and actually we talk about this in the book. So I deal actually, so I got this idea from story brand, Donald Miller, story brand. So he talks about how really we're all living this hero's journey, and every time you face a problem, you have entered into the hero's journey. And it's like, if we can look at it like, there are all these folks out there are all these heroes out there, and they're the ones that are specifically my prospects. I'm going to come alongside them at different points in their journey. Like you said, you might have someone who's got the money and the need and the pain is bad enough that they're willing to buy right now, but that's like less than 5% of the market. And so out of 100 leads that you get, only maybe 5 or less of them are ready to buy. What about those other 95? Well, they're at different parts of this journey where they've identified a problem, or maybe you've helped them realize a problem, and you need to now guide them through. And they don't want to invest that time, right? Because to them, like, they could just be getting new leads. But like you said, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, like, and it creates the problem that you're just always getting leads and you're never closing deals.
Yeah.
Because you didn't grasp the thing that was required to do that in the first place, which is trust over time.
Yeah. Can I mention too that when you actually take the trust over time approach, a side effect of it is sales conversations become almost unnecessary. Like, I've had it in the agency space where I love you guys because like I am you guys. So like for me, it's like it's easy to have empathy because I'm walking in your shoes still, right? Like 16 years later.
Right.
But because of it, like I put out like the best stuff that I know how to do. And I've had like quite a few people who say, oh, I binge watch 40 hours of your stuff and I'm ready to go. And there's no real sales conversation to be had at that point. Like, there's no arm twisting. There's no, like, they made up their mind through the relationship building process long before they got to the point of sales. And so the beautiful thing about that is it takes the onus off of you to need these like closers and setters and killers. I need a killer who's going to hawk on these people and rip them to shred and take every credit card. And they just show up and they say like, hey, like I read your stuff. I watched your thing. I like it. I want to do it. I'm ready to go. Like, what do you need from me? And it's almost more order taking at that point. But because, as you mentioned, hidden in the background, like there was a trust building process that happened over time, and like I compare it to a garden where it's just, and the other cool thing is too, is you also tend to create more value and help the people who never buy from you. You'll have people who like will never ever give you a credit card in a million years and still think you're fucking awesome and tell other people about you, which I think is equally cool as sure. Just the sales, which is you get people who swear by you. Like I just had somebody say to me the other day in an email, like, hey, there was a blog I was reading and they recommended your book, and I'm like, I've never even heard of that fucking blog, but that's really fucking cool, right?
Right. Well, I mean, if and actually, like I told you, you are your philosophy about the timer, right? That I put that in the book. So you're definitely in there, and so why?
Because for those of you guys who don't know, by the way, timer is an acronym that stands for time, identity, money, energy, and reputation. And it's basically every reason someone will ever say yes to you, or every reason someone will say no to you in a sales environment is going to come down to one of those 5 elements. So You can already, if he's quoting me, it's like, it's a great book, obviously, clearly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You are in their time immemorial, friends. So absolutely, that's important. I didn't, they say like standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like I
Yeah.
didn't come up with all these ideas. Like I didn't build community. Like community is there. It's just trying to figure out what we're doing in it. And I think learning from not only the experience, but from people like you that are out giving that content. It's like, yeah, you're putting that content out there, and the ROI may not be $1 in your pocket. It might be $1 in your pocket today. It might be $1 in your pocket 5 years from now when someone that you helped just through the content you put out there refers you. And so that really is, it's a slightly different perspective where you're becoming an authority in the space, but that almost happens naturally as you take this approach and you start helping people rather than just worrying about uh, or even just viewing the dollar as the only form of currency.
Yeah.
I think you even put timer is really each of those letters in the acronym are their own currency.
Yeah, I'll make you some food in just a minute. Okay, my loves. This, folks, by the way, is why we don't do this live, because there could have been some naked little girls running in on camera.
Oh yeah, they like to do that, man. Yeah, love children. I got a 3 and 5 year old myself, so yeah. So yeah, man, I think that's that's you can look at that in terms of currency too, and that might help along that process. Like I don't need you to pay me $1 per se. uh Sometimes giving a review on my product,
Yeah.
you know I can build trust that way. And then now I've not only got you out there talking about me, but I have a review or a testimonial, and
Yeah.
that becomes value. And I can't tell you how many new business owners I've coached through that specific concept. Like it's not, the dollar is just one form of currency.
Yeah.
You can take, and you can only spend that dollar once.
Yeah.
But I
And
can use
in
a
some ways,
review
money is the
1,000.
most expendable and easily accessible. It's the one, internet marketers value the most. But, I have a friend who puts on big legal conferences. He sells out at the Atlanta football stadium. So they get like 20, 30,000 people to come to a conference. And he told me like some of the headline speakers, and like he had Gary Vee, and Gary Vee charges $150,000 as a speaking fee. Now, like $150,000, no chunk of change for an hour talk. But the thing I wanted to mention is like when you think about all the reputation and the audience and the authority he's built up, like even if he pissed away the 150 grand, it wouldn't matter because there'd be someone else lining up to pay him 150 grand at the next conference, and you can't buy that kind of currency. I just want to mention actually this book right here. I'm a big fan of. It's called Straight Line Leadership, and one of the things it talks about in the book is inner stances, and the idea is that it's very rarely the external thing that is the challenge. Like if you think about dieting, like there's a million different diets that work. Everybody's like, should I use this one or that one? And the truth is, like, diet and exercise works. Everybody knows it works. But what doesn't work is people's inner stances. And as we're recording this, we're coming up on New Year's, and there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to make a bunch of diet resolutions that'll be gone by February, same as every year. And it's almost always because the inner stance with which they approach it is like what I call the one toe in the water. Like we'll tip one toe in the water and go, oh, it's cold. Exercise is difficult. Eating healthy is too hard,
This
right?
is hard.
And so it's almost always like not an issue of like, the how, but rather the inner stance with which we approach it. And you're giving folks basically the cheat code on sales done both ethically and I think in a way where you can actually sleep at night and look yourself in the mirror and realize like you're making a difference in the world in a beneficial way, and the opposite of whatever the fucking used car salesman is of like, so do you want to buy 2 easy payments at $29.99, and if you act right now, I'll knock off 1 easy payment, motherfucker, like, and all that kind of like sleazy bullshit, and more just like helping people. And what you'll find is the ironic thing is it forces you to let go of your own needs temporarily. Like, you're still going to have to pay bills and things like that, but temporarily to focus on another person, what they need and what they want and their desire and how to get them there. And like you said, twofold effect is, one is like it becomes actually easier to sell. You have more meaningful conversations. And then the other thing is like they'll tell you what to tweak in your product. Like they'll tell you what to.
Right.
And so you get valuable feedback that actually makes your shit better, that thereby reinforcing the whole cycle again, which is like, hey, we need somebody who can text us. Okay, cool, we can build a text thing into it. Like we just had that today where a guy said, like, to be honest, I don't read your reports at all, and I'm like, what it would
Oh,
be really
nice.
useful to me is every time you send me a phone call, because I got like 5 different companies sending me phone calls, you could just send me a text notification that it came from you. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Like that made it more useful to him. And that just came out of like feedback as you're describing. So I think I got to go feed the little monsters here, Charles. I wanted to know if you could just share with us like next steps. By the time we release this, it should be on Amazon. Tell
Yeah.
folks maybe a little bit about the book and where they can grab it and all that good stuff, and where they can find
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
about
So it'll,
you.
yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. So it'll be up on Amazon. You'll be able to get it in ebook, and in print, paperback, hardback. We're running through a few more revisions just to make sure it's providing as much value and really pulling from our story as possible. Because my goal with my partner, who's not able to be here today, but the goal here is to kind of improve the industry, right? Industry wide,
Yeah.
uh, and help people, whether it's salespeople or it's business owners who have to go out and sell, or even maybe need to manage a sales team. Help them uh, start with the right perspective, and maybe be a little bit more strategic in their approach, and ultimately through this perspective you gain your own understanding of how things work in a way that brings more peace to your own life.
Yeah.
Like I know you got to go, but I had a little epiphany a couple days ago as I was sitting there, and I was thinking, it's like there are lots of people out there who are gurus, and they're like, oh, just do, and like you said, they're, one day they're TikTok, one day they're this other thing. And I was thinking to myself, I've been in this space and I've been successful, and the underlying, like the undertones of this space where you become an authority or become an influencer is like, you got to have millions in the bank. If you're not flying in your G ride,
Can I
like
just say on that, by the
you're
way, I found out there's a
yeah.
business in Southern California, and it's a guy who leases out his private jet. It never takes off. So you just go to his private jet and you can take a bunch of selfies and go, look at us, we're flying private. And it's just for all those Instagram influencers. Cracked me the fuck up when I heard that like that there's a whole side business. You could spend, 500 or $1,000 for 10, 15 minutes, take pictures and tell everybody you're
Yeah,
cruising the
your
world in a
content's
private
good,
jet,
right?
motherfuckers. Meanwhile, like you
What's
never got
up?
off the
Yeah,
runway.
right, exactly. Yeah, and it's like it's all just an image. But what I realize is like, yeah, I don't have a private jet, but I wake up every day and I can do whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
I can make my own decisions. I can go to the office, or I can not go to the office. Someone's running my agency for me, at least 80 to 90% of it. And I've been able to help multiple business, like people step out from whatever they were doing into business and be successful through this philosophy. And so that kind of gave me a call, like the millionaire myth is
Yeah.
kind of how I
But
framed
it's
it. Is
true.
you
It's
don't
like, to me,
have to have
I had a mentor who built an 8-figure law practice and a couple of spin-off businesses that were like financed from that, where he was like kind of the money partner. And he said, he almost went bankrupt 3 times from his cash flow situation being like wildly out of control. He said he took up smoking. He said his wife ended up divorcing him and he never saw his kids, and that was like 20 years. He ended up building a second
Jeez.
business that was only 7 figures. And for the most part, like he ran it with people he liked, in with systems and processes. He had a team in place, and he worked about 5-10 hours a week and went golfing and fishing. Now, if you look at the money scoreboard as the be all end all, as most internet marketers do, then business number one was way more successful than business number two, because it was doing like
Sure.
10 times the money, right? It was like a $25 million thing. And business number two was like a $2.5 million thing. And but in reality, he's 100 times more successful in business number two. And he said it really, really simple. The best definition of success I've ever heard. He says, I define success as doing what I want, when I want, with who I want. And if you have that trifecta where you're doing what you want, when you want, with who you want, that to me is real success, not private jet. If a private jet is what you want to be doing, then like that's successful. But I think people have a lot of
Sure.
false idols, and especially in our internet space, like it's easy to bullshit it. It's easy to go fucking rent a Ferrari for an hour. It costs a couple $100 take some pictures next
Drive down
to
to
it, drive to
Hollywood.
the fucking mansion and convince everybody you're like living some baller lifestyle. But like, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
do you actually like, you know, live how you want to live in your own terms? And to me it's
yeah.
not a money equation. Money is just a tool that supports it. But to make money the be all end all is to lose the fucking plot, right? Because, you know, I have one more example of that, but I met a guy at a big Hollywood party and he just told me like, hey, I just sold an app for 300 million. And I was like, dude, you got to tell me this. And he told me by the end that 15 years he became an alcoholic doing this app. He said, I haven't seen my kids. They wouldn't even recognize me if I passed them on the street. You know, I've been divorced so long. And he's like, my health is in terrible shape. And it's like, by the time he's finished talking, I was like, the 300 million sounded cool at the start, but like, you're not someone I would want to model or be like. And
Yeah, because like, why do you want that money in the first place?
exactly to be with people you
So
want
you can have a family.
exactly, you know. So, you know, I'm not against making money, like we're all here to make money, but I think if
Oh
you
yeah,
only look at the making money as like the recurring, one last example, because I'm beating this up, but I have different agencies I consult with, and I have two of them that are doing almost identical, like 175,000 to 200K a month, right? So they're at like 2.5
nice.
million. And one of them, the conversation is, oh my God, we're so stressed out. It's chaotic, blah, blah, blah. Clients and this and blah, the teams, this, everything's all over the place. I'm losing my fucking hair and I'm working 80 hours a week. And it's just like chaos, chaos, chaos. And another
Yeah.
one of those is like a guy who's like, he has such tight systems. He's like, I barely do anything. I'm like, am I doing this wrong? Is my business broken? Like, it's almost easy. Like, is this how it's supposed to be? And if you looked at the money scoreboard, those businesses are identical. But I promise you, like, I've been in both of their shoes. Like,
Yeah.
there's no fucking way business number one is equal to business number two. If you only look at the money scoreboard, they're identical. But if you look at some of the other pieces, as you mentioned, some of the other currencies like energy and sanity and like the ability to live time
Yeah.
on their own terms, they're radically different.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
So I'm
That
glad
was
you brought
my
that up.
story from. Yeah, yeah, and I'll just wrap it up with like my story on that is that's how it was last year to this year. Last year we had gotten up to like 50K a month, which wasn't, you know, there are bigger businesses, but for me at that rate, because I was still kind of a new agency owner, I thought like, oh, 50K a month. That was the work. I've been a cop, I've been a soldier, like I've done lots of hard things. And I told my wife, I was like, that year where we had built the business up that to that level and we were growing, we had like built and launched an app, like a local version of Yelp, and we had salespeople out going. And I was like, that was the worst year by far that I've ever worked.
Yeah.
And I cut my revenue by about half. So we're now typically in between like 25 and 30. And I'm like, we're cool there. Like,
Yeah.
we live in a nice house. We live in like one of the better parts of town and drive decent cars. And I get to do whatever I want. And my wife works 3 days a week and we're raising two kids. And it's like, yeah, you know, so, you know, do we have everything right? No, not everything's perfect. But like you said, my blood pressure is good. I can go to the gym. I can live.
Yeah.
And that's really the goal of this whole thing is the trust bridge is definitely a mechanism to help facilitate the, you know, like you said, a cheat code for the sales process. But if you follow that path for long enough, you'll find yourself truly having a different understanding of what's all going on.
It's the only way, in my opinion, to have long-term success. Like I've met lots of people who have what I call the 6-month hero run, where they do big numbers for like 6 months, and then the business, for many reasons different, implodes. And some of them are friends of mine. They got like 2 Comma Club award winners, and they can show everybody like, look at my 2 Comma Club award. But in reality, because like it wasn't built on the principles you said, like ultimately you couldn't sustain it. It had to be torn down. And like that's not what we want you guys to, like when you conquer the success thing, both financially and as we described it, is for it to stick inevitably, like so that like it's a permanent life change, not a hey, I had 6 months where I made a lot of money and then everything went to shit and I had to implode it or burn to the ground. So anyways, I'm going to put some links for you guys below. Charles's book, when it is out, will probably be around the same time we release this. So we'll make sure you guys get a copy of that and send some links. And make sure to leave this man a review, because I can tell you as an author, it makes a difference. And review my book if you haven't already too.
There we go. Yeah. Read his book if you haven't. Yeah, it's good. Very good. All right. Thanks, Frankie. Appreciate your time, man. Thanks
Hey,
for the invite.
guys, if you like this video, you're also going to want to grab some free bonuses, which you can get at our website, Beyond Agency Profits. To make it easy for you, I've put the links to it in the description of this video, as well as pinned in the top comment. And we've got a couple of awesome things. This is what you'll get after you sign up. You get some of our best training, how we're closing clients over Loom videos, how we sometimes sign clients that is not a misprint for under $5 US, how to demonstrate your value in like amazing ways, trainings, how to have your clients write the best copy of your life, how we're closing without phone calls, campaigns that we've generated for clients that have done over $100,000, as well as scripts you can use to get conversations going with clients in under 10 minutes. All you got to simply do is go there, enter your name and email address, and then this is what you'll see on the other side. So if that's interesting to you, make sure to click the links below, and I will see you on the other side.